Ew, that is so gross. Welcome to Why Are You Ashamed podcast with Amaris, your kink enthusiast. Here we discuss sex, taboos, human nature and behavior, and why we're so ashamed of it all. We dive deep, we bare it all, we bare our souls, and we just really lay it on the line. We share the deepest of darkest secrets here. And shame does not exist. We don't know of shame. Shame does not exist here. We leave that shit at the door. Guys, this is the first episode. This is the actual official first episode of this podcast. I'm a little nervous. I've never done anything like this. The last one was a teaser, but yeah, this one we really get into it. I've always talked about sex and kink, but never in a finalized thought and never on a public platform professionally. I guess because of that shame. I've done things in the art world and I would always hear, you're so provocative, you're so risque, you're sexy. And those things are great, but on the flip side, I would hear, you need to tone it down. You need to tone it down. It's too much. Companies may not want to work with you. And it took me getting that kind of feedback for me to go, but I'm just being myself. I don't need to tone it down. This is who I am. This is me being authentic. What's wrong with that? And it took me getting that to be no, I need to open the floor for this conversation. This podcast is for people who feel outcasted, who don't belong, who feel like they have to wear 50 fucking masks to belong and to have people be around them and like them. And I hope with this podcast that we can heal the conversation around sex and sexuality and the shame we all have about sex and sexuality. So yeah, let's get into it. Sorry if my voice is a little raspy. I live in Michigan and it's dead winter and I'm trying to not get sick every 5 seconds, but it's hard. So bear with me. This is also the first ever of me doing this. So let's get into it. So what is shame? Shame is caused by feeling like a fundamentally bad or flawed person. This is according to Google. Often stemming from failing to meet personal or societal standards, including trauma like abuse or neglect, bullying, rejection, or public embarrassment, leading to an overwhelming sense of worthlessness and a desire to hide. That sounds bad as fuck, right? Shame should be shamed. That sounds so bad. And here are the key causes. Early childhood experiences, abuse, neglect, critical parenting, or abandonment. Any traumatic event that can deeply wound self-identity and create pervasive shame. Failure to meet standards, falling short of personal ideals or societal expectations that trigger inadequacy. Social stigma or exclusion, rejection, bullying, feeling like you don't belong. Public exposure, negative attention, criticism, or public mistakes, and internalized beliefs. So believing you are inherently bad rather than have done something bad. Okay, so shame goes, I am bad. Guilt goes, I did something bad. And I want to specifically talk about sexual shame because, believe it or not, who we are sexually bleeds into the rest of our lives, our personality, identity, who we relate to, how we move in the world, what careers we pick. And I'm not saying that our genitals completely rule our lives and who we are, but sex isn't just for procreating. We need sex as humans to function. We need to feel good as humans to function. If it didn't feel as good, we wouldn't be doing it. And I want to talk about it because I don't understand sexual shame. And, you know, we can get into God in a second, and we can get into morale in a second. But I don't understand shame, because from a very young age, I was a sexual being. From a very young age. And shame wasn't a concept until it was brought to me. Shame wasn't a concept to me until it was thrust upon me. And I was told, you know, these things are wrong. And granted, I was a child. But that type of shame carried on to my adulthood. Like, I was still being shamed as an adult, which is wrong. Like, I'm a grown-ass woman. I'm a consenting adult. That's wrong. And, like, okay, I understand, like, certain types of things should be shamed. Like, there is healthy shame. For instance, pedophiles should not be celebrated. They should definitely be shamed. Pedophiles should be studied. They should be helped. They should be blocked away from children. And anybody that harms minors or harms animals, like sexually harming an animal, physically harming an animal, anything that's like rape, incest, grooming, sexual assault, anything where a person or anything can't consent, that should be definitely shamed. But two consenting of age adults who are not related should not be shamed. And incest is a whole nother conversation, whole nother podcast, whole nother day. But this concept of like yucking people's yum and pointing fingers and the hypocrisy that comes with these, you know, that comes with sexual conversation, it really bothers me. It really bothers me. It does. Because who are we as humans? Who are any of us to go judging each other about what we like? Who are you to tell me what I can and cannot like? Who are you to tell me what I should enjoy? You're not. Nobody should. But we do it anyway. And how do we fix that? How do we rectify that? Well, we continue to have these conversations. Let's get into the God of it all. Let's start there, because you can be like, okay, well, shame dates back to the biblical times, you know, of Adam and Eve and the apple and everything. To a certain degree, because we have so many different religions, we have so many different Bibles, they kind of all say the same thing. They kind of, in a different way. They all say the same thing in a different way. And you kind of have to really do your due diligence to find what works for you and what you should believe. And it's a lot. I have a relationship with God. I believe in God. And I know God watches me, and I know he watches me masturbate, and I know he watches me have sex. There's nothing that I hide from God. And you could argue, like, okay, so our shame with sex comes from the knowledge of sex and we're not supposed to have this massive, excessive amount of knowledge about sex because sex is a sin, and it's a whole, like, rabbit hole, and you could go down with that. But for me, and, you know, I'll get a little personal here, I have seen my parents have sex a few times. Not intentionally, but as a child, I did see my parents have sex. And I feel like for me, because I'm always like, you know, sometimes I'm like, I wish I could be a kid again. I wish I could have that innocence back. Because for me, what that did for me, that interaction of seeing them have sex, it did not make me feel repulsed, but it was a knowing of that they're not my parents, they're two adults. Like, it was an access of knowledge that I did not need and that I wasn't prepared to have. But it made me a very defiant child, because I'm like, I know that you're an individual that exists outside of taking care of me now. Like, that's what that interaction did. And I don't know how, like, that's something and only an intellect can understand. Like, that was too much intelligence at that time. And I feel like that's kind of what sex does. I kind of feel like that's what the apple is, like the knowledge is. But as far as, like, the perception and judgment of sex, right? When I was 17, I wrote a poem about how God fucks. Like, I want to know how God has sex. Like, does he have sex? Like, does he have sex? And that's kind of a little sacrilegious. It's actually a lot of sacrilegious. Like, nobody thinks about how God has sex. And it's taboo, but that really is a question that I have, because what type of sex, if and is sex is a sin, like if it is truly a sin, what type of sex is deemed safe and sane as far as like consenting adults? Like, is the woman who likes to get choked by her husband extremely hard, is that bad? But they're in a marriage, so is that right? I want to know. And honestly, that's only a question for him. Only he can judge that. But it's like, we have all been trying to like keep each other in check about what we should like sexually. And like, no. Like, unless you're harming someone, that no one should be telling you what you can and can't enjoy. Nobody should have opinion on that. It's like, where did that come from? And it is kind of like race and religion, where it's like, certain people have certain opinions about certain races and certain religions. And it's just like, why don't we just stop judging each other? Like, why do we have this inherent judgment? And I feel like shame can kind of be a learned behavior, like shaming other people. I feel like shame is a projection of insecurity. It's the insecurity of, I don't like that, you shouldn't be doing that, but I secretly want to do that, or I'm not brave enough to do that, I'm not open enough to do that, or just like this hypocritical, it's this very like weird like voyeurism we have around sex and sexuality. Because sex is mainly seen as a private thing. It's in the bedroom. It seems private, but I feel that it's both. I feel like the conversation around sex is private, but it's this very, I want to know, but I don't want to know. It's this tantalizing, hypocritical dance that we're doing with each other. And it should stop. It really should stop. It really should stop. It's not, I don't understand it for the life of me. Like, I don't understand why we can't go look at someone. We can't look at the person who likes being peed on as like, okay, you like that. I don't personally like it, but you like it, and I like that you're brave enough to explore that, and I'm brave enough that I like that you're brave enough to be open about it. We don't do that. We go like, ew, that's gross, that's horrible. And I don't understand why. For instance, like, with porn. Like, Pornhub recently did a data survey, and they're like, oh, now we're getting, like, the ratio of porn watchers to men and women are, like, 75% men watch porn, and now it's, like, 35% women watch porn. That's a lie. That might be their statistics. There might be Pornhub statistics, but as an avid porn watcher, I can say that there are more women watching porn that are not accounted for, that are not, it's not documented. I don't believe that when I go to watch porn, I look at how many views it has, and I just ponder, I'm like, are all these men? It can't be all men, because we're in the days of OnlyFans, and sometimes you want to learn different techniques and you want to learn different angles, and believe it or not, you shouldn't only look at porn as help, but it can be helpful. So I don't believe that those 50K views are only men. I don't believe that, because I'm one of them. I know that for a second. It's just like, I look at the certain different type of categories of kinks on porn sites, and I'm like, thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people are watching this. But in conversation, in online conversation, you have thousands and thousands of people shaming people for things that we massively watch together. Well, not together. That would be kind of weird. But we massively watch on our own time, It's just bizarre to me. And then there is the conversation of vanilla and kinky. That's a whole, there's so many ways you can take that, because vanilla people. A lot of the times, and I truly feel like every person on the planet has a fetish. I truly believe that because I've been in certain circles and I've been in certain rooms. And in Venus Veritas, when there's truth, there's wine. And people will tell me things and bring me their truths. And I'm like, oh, you like that? I didn't know you liked that. Or you like that too. Or I didn't know you liked what I like. A lot of people are kinky, but they hide it. A lot of people aren't vanilla. A lot of people who look vanilla aren't vanilla. And sex doesn't always have to be fucking, but sex isn't always lovemaking, and sex can be both. But sex can be whatever you want it to be. But the shaming of, I can never do what you do, or I can never like that, or I don't like that, or like, who are you? Like, why? And then there is the thing of kinky people being like, oh, that's not kinky enough. That's too low. That's not kinky enough. Get on my level. That's not. And like for me, for instance, I'm heavily into kink. I'm a kink enthusiast. It is like my life. I would never put myself upon someone who is strictly vanilla or freshly new to the lifestyle. And I speak to this to say that there is this weird, purposeful incompatibility that is around shaming that a lot of people in modern dating do. Modern dating is really like, oh, let me find somebody who is Instagram perfect, that I can flex to my friends, that we don't have to like the same stuff. And I just want to date because I don't want to be alone. I feel like that's the energy of this generation. And then we're in a weird spot too, where it's like, we had the Me Too movement, then we had OnlyFans, but then we had this weird, election, and now we're half sex positive, half conservative. And then you have Gen Z, who were asexual, and we don't want to have sex, and we don't want to ruffle any feathers, and we don't want to push boundaries, and we don't know how to ask for what we want. The world is just in a really weird spot right now when it comes to sex. And it's just I don't understand why we don't just be honest about what we like, and we go for people who like the same things as we do. We're purposely, people are in purposeful marriages, lavender marriages too. Oh, I want a gay man who doesn't, I just want a gay companion. And why are you in relationship? Why are we promoting relationships where we're not being satisfied? And then the cheating culture has spiked. That's what shame does. Shame goes, you're bad for having those feelings. You're bad for liking what you like. So you suppress what you like. And then you try to find people who who validate your mask, who cover for you, so you don't have to be your true self. And then you kind of have this relapse of no, but I want this thing, and you can't have this thing, so you sneak around to have this thing, and now everybody in the world is just cheating. Isn't that a lot? Isn't that exhausting? Isn't that a waste of breath? Isn't that a waste of energy? You're better off just going on a date and being this is what I like. What are you into? Would you be open to doing this? And that's what kink does. And I feel that's what vanilla people don't understand about kink. Is that kink is this decadent dance of being I'm going to take off my armor. You're going to take off your armor. And we're going to do this together. And we're just going to play. And that's what kink is. Kink isn't always being whips and chains. And kink is an everlasting conversation. It's an open conversation. And I feel vanilla people have that too, but it's very clunky because all these things are just now being introduced to us. We've gone through so many different periods. We've gone through the Puritan period of the two beds and not sleeping together. And then women finally finding their orgasms We've gone through so many periods where sex was this hidden, shameful thing, and now we're finally almost really getting to that point, but we're really not quite there. And I really just wish that we could get to that point. And we can, but it takes the work, and it takes the work of more than one person. Like, for instance, kink people, kink communities, we do sex workshops and we do munches, like lunches and dinners, where we have open dialogues and conversations of how to be better kinksters, because what we do can be dangerous. It can be dangerous. It can be intense. And then the how we communicate isn't always like fast movement. It's meditating, it's holding hands, it's aftercare. And it's almost like a sacred religious practice. Like, to me, that's what kink is. Kink is a sacred religious practice. And a lot of people, and sometimes people may think that talking about sex ruins the fun of it, the thrill of it. No, it doesn't. Not for me, at least. Talking about sex for me is foreplay. I want to know what you want to do to me in a safe and secure capacity. And I want there to be guidelines, and I want to know what we're going to get it into. And I want to know that after I'm going to be taken care of. And that's how it should always be. And I don't need other people's opinions, and I don't need noise on it. And I feel like, too, and that's another thing, too, like a lot of vanilla people think that every kinky person is just out there because of social media and like the over glamorization of kink, and it's just now a free thing. It used to be for the outcast, but that's a whole another conversation. Now it's all out there. We're not all just outside in leather. Like, we work 9 to 5s, we have regular days, and then we go to our dungeons. And sometimes a lot of kinky people are quiet because of the shame and stigma around it. It's like this weird, like, vanilla people want to be in and look at us like we're at the zoo. And they want to live our lives, but they don't want to do it right. They don't want the knowledge. They don't want the education. And it's just kind of like everybody fumbling. Everybody is just like fumbling with sex, or not having sex at all, because they can't have the type of sex that they want, so they would just rather opt out. It's just a bizarre thing for me. And I feel like the more we have these type of conversations, the more, people learn, and the more open you feel. And I feel like that will fix the shame we have around sex and the shame we place on others. Like, I truly, truly feel that shame is an insecurity. Like, placing shame on someone is an insecurity that person has. That person is not free in themselves. They're not confident in themselves. So they have to tear you down. That's exactly what it is. And there are other things too, like, public things and indecent exposure. Like, there's a lot of like trends of like girls walking their boyfriends on leashes. And I thought I kind of would be into that. Like, I thought I would be proud of that, like in my early 20s. But now I don't think that kink should be for everyone. I don't think it should be just out there. And I feel like with vanilla sex, I feel like there needs to be more conversations about about consent and, how to cultivate, better aftercare. I feel like both sides, because I always present as I'm far kink. I'm always on the farthest end of kink. But I do just want our generation as a whole to have a better relationship to sex. And it doesn't have to just be vanilla or kinky. Like, I want us to all have a better relationship around sex. Because when you have a better relationship around sex, you have a better relationship about who you are as a person. You have a better relationship about morale, and you have a better relationship to self-love. And you have a better relationship to, spirituality and creativity. Sex is creativity. It's health, and sex is health. Moving your body is healthy. And I wish we hadn't trained our brains to think that this stuff was unhealthy. It's not unhealthy. How you go about it can be unhealthy. There has to be a balance. And I feel like we'll get to that point. But yeah, like, I went on a tangent, but I think this was good. Because, there's so many, the topic around sex is so diverse and multitudinous that we could be here for hours. But yeah, this is the first one. And how we heal sex and how we heal shame is to have workshops around it, talk about it, and just be open and accepting and loving within reason, There are clear things that should be shamed. Two consenting adults who are of age and who have clear attraction towards each other and know what they want. Like, knowing what you want is hot. Knowing what you want is sexy. That should be celebrated. It should be. So, don't be ashamed.